Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our Book Buzz with Library Love Fest. This is Jamie Herman coming live from Princeton Public Library with the HarperCollins Book Buzz team. I think they're some of the best in the industry, and we're so thrilled to have them back. They were live with us last summer in our community room, and this year we had to take it virtual. And I'm just so glad to have them all back with us to buzz on the latest books that will be coming out this summer for you to kickstart your summer reading. So speaking of summer reading, I'm going to come back at the end about the library summer reading program that we have going, because it goes for all ages. Summer reading is not just for kids, as we all well know, and the library has a really exciting and great program for adults this year. And as a matter of fact, you can see on your screen, it says information for adult summer reading. It's a little call to action button. If you click on that button, you'll head over to the screen and you can get a preview of what's coming up. We're doing a this or that format. It's very innovative, and I think you're going to love it. So we have some different polls for you to take just for fun. They're up there on the screen. And we're going to keep the chat log going throughout the presentation. We're not going to formally do the question and answer thing. Just feel free to chat, and the team will be able to see you as you chat. But mostly it's more of a presentation to learn about upcoming books. So let me be on with slides and so forth. So hopefully we're going to get this right here on Crowdcast. So first up, we have Virginia.
Oh, cool.
And yes, Virginia Stanley is the director of library marketing at HarperCollins. She was included in Library Journal's inaugural Mover and Shaker edition, being called a bridge builder because of her outreach to libraries across the country and including libraries on author tours as often as possible. And I can tell you, we at Princeton Public Library have greatly benefited from Virginia's belief that libraries need to be a part of author tours and not just bookstores. And we're so, so grateful for that. She enjoys coming of age books, Broadway shows, and any song by Cher. Does that mean that you sing Cher songs, or you just like to listen?
Both.
Both?
Jen.
Yeah, we lost Chris. Is anybody else just seeing Chris as a symbol here?
I see Chris.
You see Chris. I don't see Chris.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't see Chris, but I'm really here. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm going to introduce Chris next. Chris Connolly is the marketing associate of the marketing team at HarperCollins, hailing from Indiana. And I think, Chris, you're currently in Indiana still? You're not back in the city yet?
I am. I'm still in Indiana.
You're still in Indiana. He spends his free time reading science fiction and wandering New York City parks when he's in New York City. So I guess right now you're wandering Indiana parks. And
cornfields and whatnot, yes.
Yes, and David Lynch is his guide to life. And then last but certainly not least is Lainey Mays, who is the marketing assistant to the team at HarperCollins, originally from Mississippi. And are you in Mississippi now, Lainey? You're back in Mississippi. So this is truly a cross-country book buzz. Her hobbies include visiting museums in the city, she's there, podcasts, and watching way too much Netflix. And we were just talking about her favorite book being Anne of Green Gables, and it's all because of a librarian. Anne of Green Gables is one of my top 5 favorite books, and I return to it often in times of needing comfort, as well as I'm assuming that you stream Anne with an E on Netflix. Yeah, okay.
I'm glad that it's ending, or that it ended. It was so good.
Yes. So what we're going to do now is, hopefully this is all going to work like a charm, is I am going to put Chris on, keep Chris on screen with us, and I'm going to have Lainey and Virginia disappear for a few minutes, and then I'm going to bring up some slides, and then I'm going to go in the background, and it's all going to be great. So here we are with the Summer Reading Book Buzz from HarperCollins with the team from Library Love Fest, and I see we got lots of people coming on now. We're gaining strength. This is great. Okay, so Lainey and Virginia, we'll see you again in a few minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Bye.
Okay, so now it's just Chris, and now Chris, let me get the slides up.
Okay.
Okay, share my screen. Chrome tab.
Get ready, everyone. We have some great books to talk about. All right.
Okay, and now I'm going to just kind of fade to the back here. Whoopsie, wait a minute.
Okay. So you can see our cute, tiny little jackets there. At least that's what I'm seeing. Hi, I'm Chris. I'm with the library marketing team at HarperCollins. Thank you so much for joining us today. Just a note, you can find all of our information on librarylovefest.com. So please do check that out. We have tons of goodies there, information on what we do, hijinks, and so much more. First book I'm going to talk about is Winter Counts by David Heska Wambley-Wyden. This is coming August 25th. This is an important, necessary debut thriller by David, who is a PEN America Writing for Justice Fellow. He lives in Denver. He's an enrolled citizen of the Sicangu Lakota Nation. And this is one of the first thrillers to be set on a Native reservation written by a Native author, which we think is very important, a multitude of voices on our list. And this follows Virgil Wounded Horse, who lives on the Rosebud Indian Reservation in South Dakota. And he is the enforcer for this community. And the reason for that, this is based on a real act, the Major Crimes Act, which basically stipulates that the federal government can decide which felonies they wish to prosecute and pursue. So often what happens is these crimes come up on these Native reservations, the crime is submitted to the federal government, they turn it down, so you have violent offenders walking free. And so that's where Virgil Wounded Horse comes in. Locals hire him to enforce justice when the federal government refuses to. And Virgil takes a case after his nephew nearly dies from a drug overdose, and he's investigating who is funneling drugs into the Rosebud Reservation. And this trail leads him down a path with far greater implications than he could have ever anticipated. So this is a fast-paced, gritty thriller, but also has a really prescient kind of social critique as you see the world through Virgil's eyes and the issues, that Native populations have to face in our country today. So a really important work that has praise from Tommy Orange as well as Louise Erdrich, who says that Winter Counts is both a propulsive crime novel and a wonderfully informative book. This is just a novel I cannot forget. I'm so excited about you all reading it. Again, it's coming in August. So that is Winter Counts by David Heska Wambley-Wyden. Next book, please, Jamie. Okay, so we have Wandering in Strange Lands by Morgan Jerkins. We should have the jacket here. There we go. So this work of nonfiction really took me by surprise. So this is Wandering in Strange Lands, a daughter of the Great Migration reclaims her roots. So Morgan, I think, is one of the smartest, most important social critics working today. Her thoughts on race and sex and everything in between is always just so thoughtful and unique, and I think necessary. She is a necessary voice in these times. You'll know her, she's a New York Times bestselling author of This Will Be My Undoing. She has been hailed by Roxane Gay as a force to be reckoned with. And this is her exploration of the Great Migration, which is this, between 1916 and 1970, over 6 million Black Americans left their rural homes in the South for jobs and opportunities up north, on the East Coast, out west. And what Morgan is exploring is she has two parents who, one is from the South and has deep roots there, and another who was kind of a transplant. And she's exploring how, oral culture, storytelling, and everything about the Black experience changes once people left. And so she's trying to kind of recreate and find the thread interlocking all these rich oral histories, and also rediscover what might have been lost through all of this migration. It's just a really special work. Again, I think Morgan just has this talent for exploring things in unique and important and insightful ways. It received a Booklist star review who called it a thrilling, emotional, and engaging ride that almost commands the reader to turn the page. Wandering in Strange Lands is required reading, accurately widening the lens of American history. I don't think there could be a more important time for this this book to come out. It's going on sale August 4th, so very, very soon. You'll be hearing a lot from Morgan. I think she's an important voice, and I'm very excited to have this on our list. So that's Wandering in Strange Lands. Next book, please. We have Final Cut by S.J. Watson. So many of you likely know S.J. Watson from his Before I Go to Sleep, which was a multi-million copies sold, internationally best-selling novel. And then he also wrote Second Life, which was critically acclaimed. He's just a very smart, propulsive thriller author, and we've been eagerly anticipating this new work, which takes place in this quaint fishing village in northern England. And you follow Alex, who's this documentary filmmaker who is arriving in Blackwood Bay to kind of more explore the economic upheaval that this struggling town has experienced, but kind of stumbles upon a series of unexplained murders that no one within this community seems particularly willing to talk about. So as she then begins to pull this thread, the risks involved in her own life come to the forefront. It's just it's dripping with intrigue and menace, this town, and it also is just very propulsive. There's just this kinetic quality, I think, to SJ's writing that is unmistakable. A really great work, coming August 25th. So that's Final Cut by S.J. Watson. All right. So next we have, okay, there we go, Empire of Wild by Cherie Dimaline, who, this is her adult debut novel. She has a YA novel, The Morrow Thieves, which was a literary sensation in Canada for many years. And her adult debut, which Margaret Atwood, yes, the Margaret Atwood, calls deftly written, gripping, and informative. It follows basically the Métis population in Canada, which is a native population in Canada. And you follow really on one close-knit group of people, this family, mainly Joan, who she is a young woman who had a very happy, at times tumultuous marriage to her husband, Victor. But Victor goes out one night and never comes back. And no one knows what happened to him. Joan is, of course, traumatized, destroyed, reliant heavily on her family. She's drinking too much. And about a year later, she finds herself in a parking lot, a Walmart parking lot, after a long night of drinking too much. And she hears singing in a revival tent in the parking lot. And she goes to see what's going on here. And in this congregation, she notices that it's being led by what she is convinced is her husband. There's a man who's leading the crowd, who's part of this revival tent, who sounds like her husband, looks like her husband. It is her husband, but he doesn't know who she is. And this sets off this really propulsive search for the truth about what happened to Victor, who is this man, and what forces are at play. So there's some supernatural involved with this, but it's also just a great story of family, Joan's family, and how they rely upon one another from a native voice again, which I can't stress enough how important that is in these times. Just a really wonderful piece of native fiction. Absolutely adore this novel, unlike anything else I've read. So that's Empire of Wild by Cherie Dimaline. That's coming July 28th. Okay. My Vanishing Country by Bakari Sellers. So this novel is on sale. It's a New York Times best-selling memoir. A necessary work by, I don't know if any of you have seen Bakari Sellers on CNN. He's often on TV. He's a political analyst. I saw him on CNN when he was really emotional, following the protest and the need for change. In 2006, when he was just 22 years old, he became a state representative in his native home of South Carolina. He is an amazing human being, eloquent and passionate. And this is his memoir talking again about the South, similar to Morgan's book, and that he's exploring his family in the rural South, in this case, South Carolina, and the poverty that has struck, these vibrant communities and the reasoning behind it. So I think, again, if you can think about Hillbilly Elegy and what that did for Appalachia, that's what this is doing for the rural Black South. What's happened? What's the story? And why was Bakari able to succeed? He comes from a lineage of social justice. He was not unused to seeing Martin Luther King, amongst many others, during the Civil Rights Movement through his father, who was an activist. This is a really fascinating tell of his story, but also an inspection of where we are today and why. Just a really necessary novel. I'm really happy it's selling the way it is because I think it's a necessary story. So that is My Vanishing Country by Bakari Sellers, on sale now. You can read that, and I highly recommend it. And then my last book is The Son of Good Fortune by Leslie Tenorio. So Leslie previously wrote Monstrous, which was a acclaimed short story collection. So this is his adult debut novel, and it's a coming-of-age story that is wrapped around the issues of our time. So you follow Excel, who is a pretty average teenager. He works at a local pizza shop, which I love. It's spy themed, and it's called The Pie Who Loved Me. He passes his time with his girlfriend, and he's living a relatively normal life. Somewhat. See, Excel is actually an undocumented immigrant. His mom was a Filipina B movie star who now scams men online, and they also live with his mother's martial arts instructor. So it's a very funny story when Excel is kind of coming to grips with his life, and what he decides to do is kind of escape the tight-knit structure of his family and all the expectations that go with his hometown. And he sets off with his girlfriend to this desert town called Hello City, just full of hippies and techies, and kind of just it's developing its own rules, because really what Excel is looking for is a sense of belonging and home. And how do you do that when the country that you're in that has formed you isn't even really willing to acknowledge your existence? So it has, again, such a timely social eye and critique involved in Excel's coming of age, but it's also just funny and heartfelt, big-hearted. I absolutely love it. One of my favorite big-hearted authors is Kevin Wilson, who many of you know, author of Nothing to See Here. He loves this novel as well. He calls it flat out brilliant. And what makes it so wondrous is how Tenorio controls the complexity of the narrative. How can a book be filled with so much humor, such a light touch, and yet still touch that weird place in our heart that can break us apart? Excel and his mother, Maxima, are characters you won't forget. And the world in which they exist, stuck between belonging and not belonging, does not deserve them. An unforgettable novel, highly recommend. It's on sale July 7th. So that's The Son of Good Fortune by Leslie Tenorio. And Janie, I think that does it for my books. Thank you everyone for watching. Keep tuning in for more.
Yeah, so you can put in the comments anything that you were particularly interested in that Chris buzzed about, because maybe I can talk to Chris and we could get that author to come on. I'm thinking Morgan would be a really good person for us to bring on in August. I think that would probably be a popular event right now. But yes, thank you, Chris, for sharing so many awesome books. So we're going to say bye-bye to Chris for now.
Bye,
and
Janie.
I'm going to invite Virginia on. Hang on, let me do this. I have a little bit of, in a minute, people. Invite on screen. So we're going to bring Virginia up if she's ready for her view here. Here we go. Here we go. So Virginia is going to buzz about the next 6 books in our buzz. And we're going to say goodbye to Chris. And here we go. There's Virginia. And so I'm going to disappear back into my background again and operate the slides while Virginia buzzes. One moment.
Can you hear me? Janie? All right. Okay, great. People can hear me. Janie can't. They can hear Janie. They can hear me. Hi, everyone. How are you? Thank you so much for having us on. We so appreciate it. And get straight to it. But excuse me, because my cat needs to get back in. She wants to get in. She wants to get out. Oh, okay. Hi. Virginia here talking about my first book, The Color of Air by Gail Tsukiyama. So excited to have her under our roof. This is historical fiction, and Gail Tsukiyama hasn't written a novel in about 7 years, so well worth the wait. I can guarantee you that. This is about a Japanese-American family, and it's set against the backdrop of Hawaii's sugar plantation and the eruption of the Mauna Loa volcano in 1935. This was inspired by her Japanese Hawaiian father's story. And it alternates between past and present. So it starts at 1935 and goes back. And it weaves together the stories of these main characters. There's a young doctor who's coming back home from Chicago. He was born on the island. He goes to Chicago, and now he's coming back. It's his, and you'll read about his mother and the uncle who thinks of him as a son, and it talks about their immigrant community. And now the volcano it threatens the entire community. It's going to erupt. So it unearths long-held secrets that meld past and present, and it reveals a path forward for all of them. As I say, this marks her return in the first of 7 years. This is her first novel since then, and it's Daniel is the book starts out with Koji, who is the man who. This is a very atmospheric book, and it deals with classism and racism and immigration, and it's very atmospheric and very fraught with tension, but the characters are drawn so beautifully. It's very bittersweet. It celebrates their lifelong bond to each other and to their immigrant community. Terrific reviews by authors. Star review from Kirkus, who says that Tsukiyama crafts characters whose reliance on each other is their greatest gift, their greatest strength, with many strong women leading the way, which is very true. Well-paced and lush. Starred Booklist review says Tsukiyama evokes the wild, opulent beauty of the island, the harsh lives of migrant workers, racist and domestic violence, mystical connections, the repercussions of a love triangle, and the tolls of age. As the volcano erupts, long-buried secrets and guilt surge to seismic effect. It's just absolutely powerful and beautiful, and pages of reviews and raves for this, and 7 years, but worth the wait. Color Rivera by Gail Tsukiyama. And next, what is next? Mrs. Lincoln's Sisters, Janie. There we go. Jennifer Chiavarini. She is fantastic, and this is her 30th novel. So she does contemporary and she does historical. And this book, because she does a lot of those quilting books too, but she's a mastermind at historical as well. And she's written about Mrs. Lincoln before, the Mrs. Lincoln's dressmaker, huge, resistance women, huge. So now she's returning to this era, and she explores the lives and the relationships of Mary Todd Lincoln and her sisters. She's a terrific website. You should check it out. Anyway, this is takes you back to that period. It's 10 years after her husband's death, and Mary Todd Lincoln tries to take her own life. Her older sister, Elizabeth, is shocked to hear this news, and not only Mary's attempt at suicide, but it comes on the heels of her son's efforts to have her committed to an asylum. So there are 5 Todd sisters, and they have always supported each other until the Civil War. And now the sisters have to put aside their pain and loss and reunite to save their sister. It's so wonderful. She's just such a terrific writer and a lovely person. And if you ever want to have her beamed to your library, you should. I met her in the fall, and boy, is she a terrific speaker and just absolutely lovely. Okay, next book up is Memorial Drive by Natasha Trethewey. Yep, so this is our season's lead read. So every season we have our sales department focuses on one book that they feel has a wide readership and has that little extra something, and then they put a lot of muscle into that book. And so we winnow down to the books that we feel, and then we vote, and this one won, and this was our lead read for the season. This is a memoir by Pulitzer Prize winning author Natasha Trethewey, and it is about her mother's murder at the hands of her stepfather, a former stepfather, when Natasha Trethewey was only 19 years old. And it starts with her mother's history in the deeply segregated South, and it goes through her own biracial childhood in Mississippi. And she talks about her sense of dislocation and displacement in the lead up to this terrible shooting death in 1985 in Atlanta. She is also a twice named Poet Laureate of the United States, once as well as a Poet Laureate of U.S. The thing about this book, and Lainey can tell you as well, that when I read this, I knew it was a memoir, and I felt like I was reading fiction. She's a poet laureate. She has such a beautiful way with words, and to take this horrific, harrowing experience and make it so poetic, and I don't want to say beautiful because it's it's harrowing, but the writing is just exquisite. It really is. It's just absolutely extraordinary. Lyrical writing, but also a gripping crime story. And the starred book list review. She's going to be a speaker at the Carnegie Awards at ALA. She's just absolutely wonderful. And that's Natasha Trethewey's Memorial Drive. Cannot say enough about it. Okay, next up is These Women by Ivy Pacoda. Another one that got tons of star reviews. This is the author of Wonder Valley and Visitation Street. If you haven't read those, highly encourage you to. This is a story about a serial killer like you've never seen before. It's a literary thriller of female empowerment and social change. What I love about this book is that you never see the serial killer, because it's not about the serial killer. It's about the women and the lives that he affects. That's, as the author says, the serial killer is boring. Let's find out how it affected the women. And who are the women? Well, she uses point of view to turn the serial killer novel on its head. And these 5 seemingly unconnected women are all drawn into the killer's path. There's a grieving mother, a cop, a dancer, a performance artist, a neighborhood woman who until now had turned a blind eye to the darkness surrounding all of them. And the thing about these women is that it's like these women sort of not throwaways, but it's sort of like they're cast aside. Do you know what I mean? And so she just turns the whole theme on its head. It's set in a town in Los Angeles. It's a very tough street, very street, and has such a grasp of this. I don't know, these characters and the way they speak with each other, and it's heartbreaking and it's tough. And I just love it. It's like it's hard-boiled class crimes, and it turns its focus to the people impacted by the crimes rather than the killer. It's absolutely terrific. Starred reviews from I think Kirkus. Anyway, it's just terrific, and she's a fantastic writer. Starred review from Publishers Weekly. Just pages of raves, but we have to keep going, so I'm going to go. Library Journal. Wait, don't go yet. Go back, please. Library Journal gave it a star review. Says Pacoda stuns with this disquieting literary thriller rife with descriptive street language and violence. It is complex, intense, and enthralling. These are all the raves for this book. So if you don't believe me, believe them. Okay, where am I at? Whatever it took. Very quickly. This book. So this is the first-person World War II account. This is Henry Langer, and he's 95 years old now, and he recounts his experiences at D-Day, his time as a prisoner of war in Auschwitz, and in a dramatic escape. This book also includes a broader look at the war effort, and it includes material from his wife, who was a Rosie the Riveter during the war, and it's a very compelling piece. There are photographs here. There are 30 photographs in the book. Janie, can you show the pictures? They should be next. If not, we can. Are they there? Yeah, there they are. It's very powerful. I don't know, it's 12:30. I probably have a little bit of time to tell you a little bit more about this. So we published it in time to mark the 75th anniversary. It just came out last month, and never before told first-person account. He was. Let me see. The Allied invasion of Normandy launched in the pre-dawn hours of June 6, 1944. Henry Langer is a paratrooper with the 82nd Airborne. He was among the thousands of Allies who parachuted into occupied France. He survived heavy anti-aircraft, crashed through the glass of a greenhouse. He saw a lot of the soldiers in his unit killed. He survived. He was captured. And he was, the next phase was he was in a death camp, and he witnessed unspeakable tragedy, and he escaped. And it is, you have to read this book. It's absolutely riveting. It's powerful. It's heroic, and it deserves to be read. And you need to know about his wife, Arlene, sitting at home too, and being part of, as they say, the Rosie the Riveter, and being part of the went to work in the offices and the factories to build armaments. It's just unbelievable. Okay, next. Before you go, Before you go, very different book. This is a debut, and it explores the question of how we search for happiness and at what cost. It's got terrific reviews from fellow authors. In the before, humankind is created with a hole in its heart. The designers not realizing their mistake, if it was a mistake, until too late. So we meet this boy, his name is Elliot Chance, and he knows nothing of this. All he knows is that he doesn't feel at home in his world, and his desire for escape becomes more urgent as he grows into adulthood, where the turbulence of life seems to offer no cure for the emptiness. He's desperate and lost, and he stumbles upon a support group on the edge of Manhattan, where he meets two drifting souls. Sasha, a young woman who leaves coded messages in the copy she writes for advertising campaigns, and Banner, whose detailed depictions of the future make Elliot think he may have actually been there. With these two unlikely allies, Elliot launches into the business of life, determined to be happy in spite of himself. Yet the hole in the heart is not so easily filled. It's profound and playful, beautiful. It's an imaginative journey. I just want to read one quote to you, which I love. It's from Matthew Quick, who wrote The Silver Linings Playbook, Love. Alluring, magical, and painfully real will make your heart ache in all the right ways. A triumph for all of us who've suspected there's something missing deep within. Debut, before you go, Tommy Butler. Next and last is The Nesting Dolls by Alina Adams. This is another debut. This is spanning nearly a century, from 1930 Siberia to contemporary Brighton in Brooklyn. Brighton Beach. It's a page-turning epic family saga centering on 3 generations of women in one Russian Jewish family, each striving to break free of fate and history, each yearning for love and personal fulfillment, and how the consequences of their choices ripple through time. This is one section follows a refugee from 1930 Siberia who hopes marriage to an American will offer her a better future. The second is about a mathematician in 1970s Odessa whose professional future is blocked by anti-Semitism. The third is a young woman in contemporary Brighton Beach who discovers that the heritage she has tried to leave behind might hold the key to her future. This is based on the author's own family history. She creates a triptych of 3 women struggling for agency in a repressive society and looking to a partner for either love or safety. The author is herself immigrated from Odessa as a child. These are some wonderful books, and we are so happy that we can bring these to you, and especially debuts. You know, we just love to sort of raise them up on people's radars. So thank you so much for this opportunity to talk to you about these books today. And now, over to Lainey.
Okay, thank you. Those are all great books. I like debut authors as well. I love discovering new voices, and I think it's exciting. So these were all great buzzes. So what we're going to do now is go over to my options here. And if you have anything you want to say about the books that Virginia just buzzed about, you can just put that in the chat thing. Where did Lainey go on me? There we go. Inviting her on screen. Okay. And we're going to say goodbye to Virginia for now. And here's Lainey. Whoopsie. And put me back in the back.
Hi. So I second everything Virginia said about Memorial Drive. It is stellar. It's amazing, but so harrowing. First, I want to talk about Surrender White People by D.L. Hughley, and also with Doug Moe. So I'm sure know who D.L. Hughley is, but if you don't, he's one of the original kings of comedy. He hosts a national radio program called The D.L. Hughley Show, and he also has appeared on HBO and Netflix and Comedy Central. So he is just a big voice in this time, and he, in the last couple of years, has been really outspoken on social media. If you follow him, I know I do, and I always love hearing his view. But he's just this legendary activist and comedian. And so his first book was How Not to Get Shot, which Black Enterprise called Hilarious Yet Soul Shaking. And this is his follow-up to that book. And this one is a satirical version of just a peace treaty and how to get people to come to terms with what has happened in the past and what we can do to move on from it. like I said, it was a follow-up to his New York Times bestselling How Not to Get Shot. So this is perfect in that vein. And, you know, it was already coming out, but now more than ever, I think I personally sought it out during this time to understand more about, you know, my place in the world or my thoughts and feelings. And I was able to reflect on while reading this book, but also get you know, there's good laughs. And I think that was a perfect marriage of what I needed right now. And so because the United States have become a majority minority nation, there's this new reality that we need to figure out what our terms are and what we need to do. And so by surrender, he means peace and reconciliation, but it only happens when white people surrender unjust privileges. And so they have to know what those are and how we talk about conscious and unconscious bias. So he lays it out kind of like a contract. It's really funny to read because, like I said, it's legalese, but it's really funny too. It's not stale writing. And so there's the article one. So some of these include the terms: white people shall consider reparations. History books shall be aligned. We shall endeavor understand one another. And so it goes on. And at the end, there's like a whole contract together and you can sign it. And I can't tell you, it goes through like the history book. You get this full all-encompassing history of inequality in education and housing and healthcare, police custody, etc. And so, you know, it's hilarious as well. And I think it's going to be perfect for people starting to understand the full history, and also bringing in people in the present right now who are talking about that and their voices, but also just to make you reflect a lot. But it's very cutting and witty, and you're going to enjoy this one. So that was Surrender White People by D.L. Hughley. And this one's Everything is an Emergency, an OCD story in words and pictures by Jason Adam Katzenstein. So Jason is a cartoonist and he works for print and television. It's appeared in the New Yorker, the New York Times, Mad Magazine, Cartoon Network. He's just an illustrator of so many fun things. You can kind of get a taste for what his illustrations look like on that cover. And if you're able to go to Edelweiss, check out some of the spreads. But he also did The White Man's Guide to White Male Writers of the Western Canon, which was hilarious. So check that out. It's out now. And I also want to say the book I talked about before and this one both are on sale June 30th. So you have a little while, but not long. And in this one, Jason has obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, and this is all about him as a person. A lot of the times his work is just his drawings or outside things, and this is really a memoir and stories. And so really unique for him and very different. But because he has OCD, he kind of performs rituals throughout his life to get him through to the next day. And, you know, it's always think, repent, rinse, repeat. He has to wash his hands or think of, you know, this is dirty. And so he has to get over these mental blocks every day. And this is a comic all about those self-destructive stories that he tells himself over and over while also seeing them as true or not true. And they're just really witty and confessional and really emotional to be opened up to his mind and see his way of life. And the New York Times Book Review just said, Everything is an Emergency is a guided tour into a disordered mind, and the book is an education for anyone not sure what a serious case of OCD does to a person, and even those not afflicted may find their own comfort in one of Katzenstein's epiphanies. Find the seconds that feel okay and live in them. I think that's great advice. But like I said, it's a graphic memoir. And so it's very different for him. You can go check him out on Instagram. He has a huge following, and you can see some of his drawings there too. Much like when I read Turtles All the Way Down by John Green, I think it's really comforting in a way to understand how people's minds work. And so this is, you know, Jason's real story, but also there's that witty element too, where you can kind of relate to him. So check this book out. It's coming out later in June. So that's Everything is Emergency, Jason Adam Katzenstein. And the next is Chicano Eats, which I'm sorry, it's lunchtime. And if you haven't eaten, you're going to be hungry after this one. It's one of my favorites. It also comes out June 30th. So you have a little bit, but not too long. So this is by Esteban Castillo, and he is the creator of the popular Chicano Eats blog. He also won the Savor Best New Voice People's Choice Award. So he knows his stuff, but this is just a pop of color in a bland world. Look how beautiful that is. And I have some spreads on the next side. I don't know if, oh, yeah, there you go. Look how beautiful that is. It's just like pop art. And you can also see that on his Instagram, Chicano Eats, because his blog is just as beautiful as these images. So he grew up in Santa Ana in California, and he grew up. I did make something. I was getting to this. I made a recipe from this, so I promise I know that it is really good. This is a Jello mold that he has in there, and I didn't expect it to go well, and it went really well. So I made that for a Facebook Live we did. So I promise I've read it and I've tried it, and it's super easy to make. Recipes include mac and queso fundido, toasted coconut horchata, on and on. And there's a whole chapter dedicated to tacos, which I'm here for all the way. Bright, colorful, about 100 photographs. And because he saw a lot of popular blogs coming out with all of these Latino or Latinx fusion recipes, he was really surprised to know that it wasn't really traditional. And so he kind of formed his love for design and cooking and culture all into this blog he made and then translated into the book. And it's bicultural and bilingual, so it's very different. And I think that is such a great opportunity that they did that. There's 85 traditional and fusion Mexican recipes. And again, I'm sorry if you're hungry because it's just so beautiful. Okay, and I will move on. So that's Chicana Eats by Esteban Castillo. And next is Team of Five. So this is Kate Anderson Brower. It's available now, so you can get it anywhere. Kate is the author of the #1 New York Times bestseller, The Resident, New York Times bestseller, First Woman and First in Line. She is a CNN contributor, and she spent 4 years covering the Obama White House for Bloomberg News. And she's a former CBS News staffer and Fox News producer. So she knows the White House very well. She's covered it. And this is her new book, a fourth in a kind of political series that she's done. It's a newsworthy look at the lives of 5 former presidents after their White House years, including the surprising friendships that they formed and their perspectives that really only they can share with each other. It got a Booklist starred review. It says, Brower does not deny partisan politics, but she finds an overarching spirit of camaraderie among those who have borne the office's burdens. Based on what Brower has learned from the past, she guardedly and generously tries to anticipate how Donald Trump will fare when he eventually joins his tiny fraternity. Insights into presidential life beyond the rancor of everyday politics will make this a very popular read for the general public. So if you're a fan of nonfiction or the White House and politics, it kind of is great in that Venn diagram of just everyone can kind of come to this and learn something. And there's a lot of people featured, so you can find someone you like to read about in there. There's 16 color photographs throughout the book. And I think what's really cool is this image on the front cover. Fun fact, it's an image of the 5 former presidents taken at the White House lunch in 2009. It's the first time since 1981 that all living presidents have been together at the White House. So that's a really historic photo on the front. But you'll hear commentary on the news from a really trusted name and great interviewer. And the election's coming, so we're all looking for supplemental reading. It's a perfect gift for those people as well. So that's Team of 5, Kate Anderson Brower, and it's available now. Another one available now is Catherine House by Elizabeth Thomas. This is a stunning debut. We love this one. Gothic-infused literary suspense. So we have a podcast, the Library Love Fest podcast. You can find it anywhere. Chris talked about Winter Counts, and that is an interview as well. And I'm sure there were some more in there. We have a great backlist, and Elizabeth Thomas was featured on there with her editor. So please go check that out to really learn a lot more about this book. But just as an overview, it's one of the most anticipated novels by Entertainment Weekly, Cosmopolitan. I would be here all day if I read the whole list. Everyone is so excited for this one, and it just came out in a boom. So you're going to hear about this one. It's about a girl who goes to a university, Catherine House. It's wildly selective. There's this admissions policy where you have to get in. They put out like judges and presidents, and so they are really well known, but they're kind of secretive. And so in order to get in, you have to give up everything you own, all of your personal things, and you move into this house for 3 years. Don't talk to any family. And so Inez, the main character, really starts to realize she's not really taking it as seriously as some of her cohorts. And so she decides maybe something else is going on. It seems like a little too weird that they're all so happy to be in this position when she questions things. But it's really gothic in a way where the house is a character on its own, and it's crumbly and really atmospheric. I think Elizabeth Thomas in the interview said, I wanted to write a book about a girl who fell in love with a house. And I love that sentiment. So please go check out the podcast episode. You're going to learn so much more about Elizabeth and the book. And that's available now, so you can read the book. Okay, so lastly, I want to talk about one of my favorite rom-coms of the season, You Had Me at Hola by Alexis Daria. This is coming out in August, so just a little bit, not too long. Alexis is an award-winning contemporary romance author, former artist and native New Yorker. Her debut, Take the Lead, was a 2018 Rita Award winner for Best First Book, and she was also named one of the best romance novelists of 2017 by the Washington Post and Entertainment Weekly. That her first book was. So she knows romance and she knows rom-coms, and this one is so fun because it's all about telenovelas, and you just want to take a head dive deep into it. And I actually learned a lot of things I didn't know that, if you're a fan of Ugly Betty or Jane the Virgin, they started off as telenovelas. They were adapted. And so this is kind of an adaptation story in a way, because two characters are coming from that space and they want to make it in the world of telenovelas, and they're Puerto Rican and their families are either from there or they're first generation. And so it talks a lot about the mash of different people in New York. She lives in New York, and she comes back. She's going to be a leading lady, and nothing's going to get in her way. And the male character is coming from telenovelas, and he wants to kind of break out into a starring role. And so as they kind of go around each other and they don't want a relationship because they're there to be serious and they have secrets of their past, they soon decide that maybe they are not going to be able to stop their attraction to each other. But what's really fascinating is they have scenes written in where they're reading as themselves the script, as their characters. And so that was really unique, and I enjoyed that. But really intersection of Latinx communities in the U.S., they talk about that. Soap scenes, they talk all about in telenovelas. And I love that Sarah McLean, who is a New York Times bestselling author, she said, "Soapy smart and so sexy with vibrant characters and electric chemistry comparable to the telenovelas that inspired it. You'll be thrilled. You Had Me at Hola doesn't come with commercials." I love that quote. So that's the last one for me. Coming soon, You Had Me at Hola, Alexis Daria.
Hello. Okay, so I'm back. I'm going to just bring our panelists back on screen for 1 minute. Hang on a minute so I can invite them on. Thank you so much. I really am impressed with your dish that you made there. Did that have like milk in it or something?
A lot of cream and milk. It was, you make several different, and the New York Times did a clip of that cookbook, so you can do the queso and queso fundido. You can find that recipe online. But yeah, it was like Mexican cinnamon, I think, cinnamon sticks and Jello. It was really good.
I never would have thought to put that together, but I think that looks interesting. And I see that some people are really interested in the fact there's a whole chapter devoted to tacos as well. And I think I'm interested in that as well. Lots of great variety there, everything from humor to memoir, to cooking, to historical fiction, to fantasy. I mean, you guys did a really great job of giving, I think, hopefully a little bit for everybody. And we're going to be in touch to maybe set up some book talks with some of these authors later on. And we have some feedback from our poll. So this has been really great. So I'm going to just say thank you to Virginia, Lainey, and Chris, and kind of usher them off screen. You guys can hang around, or I know you also have lots of work to do. And I hope everybody's going to hang around. I'm going to just talk a little bit about our adult summer reading program, because it starts in just 5 days. So we plan this book buzz as kind of a way to get everybody excited about adult summer reading at the library. And of course, summer reading for K to 12 is also going on. And this year it's going to all be virtual through an app called Beanstack. And we've got badges and challenges. And, we're sorry that we can't be in the library to do it in person, but we're really excited about what we have. So thank you to Virginia, Chris, and Lainey.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
Everyone.
We appreciate it. Take good care, all.
Okay, we'll see you soon. Okay, so as you can see, there's a link here for adult summer reading, and I'm also going to just drop that right into the chat box for you, and so you can see for yourself what's going on. It's going to be really fun. And the other thing is that you can just go, if you want to connect to the programs for K to 12, and then just link. There's a shorter URL, which is just princetonlibrary.org summer reading. Can someone pop that into the text for me from our staff? Because what I want to do is share with you, our staff work together to kind of say, this is great. We heard from the HarperCollins team, but there's lots of books. And I'm going to send this link to everybody who registered today so that you will get it. Let me do my screen share. Okay, so you're going to be getting this coming from our library, which is our PPL staff, Summer Book Buzz. This is books that are coming out in June, July, August, and up into September. And just to get you a little bit excited in the theme of, what's upcoming, we have lots and lots of book lists on our website for books that are currently available mostly in ebook form. We're trying to keep it to that, but we also just want to get you excited about books that are coming out, books that our own staff have read advanced copies of or are excited about. So for instance, June releases are already coming out, like the Ellen Hildebrand 28 Summers or The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett. So for each month, we kind of just took our 6, we pulled the staff and we got 6 books for you. July, we've got, the Alex Trebek memoir coming, as well as Crossings, The End of White Politics. And then if I can bring up the next one for you. August, we have a lot of really great ones coming up. The Allie Smith one, Summer, The Lines of Fifth Avenue by Fiona Davis. One of my favorites is in there, Migrations, is one that I did an advanced reading copy of, and by Charlotte McConaughey. It's really great. And Christina Baker Klein, who's a New Jersey person, with The Exiles. In September, we're looking forward to, I'm kind of going all over the place. The new Fredrik Backman is out. Fredrik Backman is a Swedish author, one of my favorites. Jodi Picoult. Caroline B. Cooney is back with an adult novel, and then a new Elena Ferrante. So I'm going to send you this little list of books that are coming out so that you can kind of keep track of what we have been doing as a staff. And then, let me see if I can just share with you. Hope you're hanging in here with me. Stop. You can only share one screen at a time, and that's a problem. And then I'm going to bring you right to here we go. Okay, and so here you see the screen for the summer reading program at Princeton. And this is brings you, you can see, if you just go to princetonlibrary.org/summer reading, it will actually bring you to the one for youth summer reading. But over here, you can always get to adult summer reading by clicking on the link. But while we're here, so we have 3 different age groups for youth summer reading. And it's always important, I think, for adults to read along with children if they have them in their lives, whether it's their own child or their grandchild. And we're also going to be having events. And of course, again, this is going to be an all online thing, and there's going to be challenges with badges that you can earn and all sorts of fun. And then the adult summer reading is also on the theme of Imagine Your Story. And this is going to be for adults 18 and plus. And so you're going to have a choice of reading a book or doing an activity. And the activities are often, are very literary based as well. And so there's kind of 8 challenges of something to read or something to do. And again, the program registration begins June 15th and concludes August 15th. And we're going to have 8 different programs to go with the event as well. They're going to all be virtual. And if you submit your completed challenges by August 15th, there is a prize as well. And there's prizes for the youth program as well. So this is all set up on our website, ready to go. And Susan Collins is saying, yay, Beanstack. It's going to be really great. Our staff has put an incredible amount of time into doing this, and we're really excited about our new process. And so we hope that you will come and join us for summer reading in any way, shape, or form, with your kids, on your own, and help spread the word about this. We're used to doing registration in person at our library, so we need to get the word out, and we're really excited about this new way. As I said, I'm rambling, so I'm going to finish here, and I'm going to thank all the people for tuning in for this book buzz, and be sure you can leave your comments here, especially if leave comments here, or feel free to email me at the library. If any of the books that were buzzed about today by HarperCollins, if there's any that you think we should try to bring online onto our Crowdcast channel, can't make any promises, but we can certainly talk to people about that. I think there's a couple I've definitely bookmarked as wanting to come on later on. So stay tuned. Make sure you subscribe to our Crowdcast channel, and if you want to see, this will be up as a replay if you want to share it with other people, and it will be here for quite some time, so you can come back, watch again, or you can send the link to other people. I think that's about it. It's 1 o'clock almost. Thank you for sharing your lunch with us, and we will see you virtually sometime soon. Bye, everybody.